Good morning. It is 9 o'clock on November 8th. This is Friday. This is the Governing Board Workshop for the month of November. If you are able, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a quorum. We have all but one member here, but she is on Zoom. Christine, can you hear me?
I can, Jack. Can
Okay,
you hear
good.
me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll move on to 1.04, which is the meeting procedure. We read this in every meeting. The governing board conducts all of its meetings in compliance with Arizona open meeting laws per Arizona revised statutes, Title 33-1804, and in concert with Recreation Centers of Sun City West bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures, as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, will be followed in board meetings as appropriate, consistent with Bylaw 3.07, entitled Procedures for Owner-Member Meetings, and Standing Rules number 2 and number 3. All questions and comments are to be directed to the governing board president. All comments are entertained at the discretion of the governing board president. Speakers shall state their name and member number and speak in a courteous manner. The governing board president may limit commentary time and the number of commenters or speakers on any issue. The governing board president may also redirect commentary at individual agenda items to the general guest comments agenda line item, except when the board has discussed the agenda item and a formal vote is to be taken. All fire and room safety precautions and regulations are strictly obeyed at all meetings per the guidance of the Arizona Fire and Medical Authority. The governing board reserves the right to adjourn any meeting if the safety of the board, meeting attendees, or others is deemed at risk, or if there is too much disruption to continue. After one verbal warning by the president, the board also reserves the right to ask any meeting attendees to leave any meeting should their behavior be deemed dangerous or unacceptable. Disciplinary action may follow. And to set expectations, there are no votes that will be taken today. This is a working workshop meeting, so all votes are done at the regular meeting, which will happen later this month. Moving on to approval of minutes in section 2. Do I have approval for the October 11th, 2024 meeting approval? Any changes, additions, or deletions? Seeing none, they will be accepted as written. Moving on to section 3.01, Governing Board Recognition, the loan repayment from the Automotive Restoration Club. If you'll come down.
Board, my name is Ron Rada. I'm one of the treasurers for the Automotive Restoration Club. Was asked to give a short presentation to the board to make sure that especially the newer members understood our background and where we're going. Our club was formed in 2011 and was designated a charter club. In late 2014, the club requested the governing board approve funding for our building. The original building plan was downsized to make it more affordable. Phase 1, our main building, was completed in January 2016 with a final cost of $898,936. By May of that year, the club had paid $437,311 from member donations, as well as income from our car shows to that date and car raffles. In 2018, with a good record of payments, the club requested that Phase 2, an addition that would include a state-of-the-art paint booth and prep area, be built. Phase 2 was completed in 2019 at a cost of $399,410, which brought the total expense for the building to $1,298,346. With today's payment of $50,000, the club has now paid a total of $973,936 and has a remaining balance owed to the rec centers of $324,410. The club hopes to ask the board for approval of the construction of Phase 3 sometime next year, which will finish the facility as originally conceived. Thank you. Vote to what? We ask the president to come down. Get in front with Chuck. Get the board president. You want to endorse that back?
They give it to me.
You can endorse it back.
Christine, but
I can walk away. There you go.
Very impressive that the art club has managed to repay as much as they have. That is just outstanding. Very impressive. Going on to new business in section 4.01 is a legal confirmation. There was a question in our last meeting, I believe it was our last regular meeting, about some of the wording in policy FI 17, specifically for those of us on the dais here. It was section 3.6, which is on the third page. I think that's the third page. That referenced ARS section 11-1134B3. That is actually correct. So that has been confirmed with our attorney. Any questions on that? Okay, great. Any questions online?
Nothing online.
Any questions in the audience? Okay, Mr. Wilhelm, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, board. Good morning, audience. Exciting part of our year is the opportunity to come up here and share what the proposed capital projects list to our general manager is. A little back story here for FY 25-26 proposed capital. Before the season started, we had great discussions. CFO Clifton Swan, myself, our interim general manager, and President Leary. And we came up with a plan to help the process of project planning and make it a little bit more streamlined, give a better timeline of opportunity for the committees and their chairpersons to be able to review projects before getting into the depths of talking about the finances. And for full transparency, each committee chairperson was provided an updated list as each month has gone by, starting with September, October, and November. Our plan for this year was budget and finance, obviously, looks at all the financials, so they see an entire list. And then the other committees see the list line items that were relevant to their committee. Some of the projects this year that pertain to chartered clubs. As an example, the chartered clubs chairperson, Director Chatton, has had the opportunity to already begin the proposals from the clubs or the presentations from the clubs to discuss their CR13 requests, whether they're new or repair and replacement related. We had amazing set of tours this year, all part of this new way of looking at the proposed capital list. Director Williams had great leadership in taking all of the volunteers in her committee on our yearly tours with Russ Boston and myself And included in that were the volunteers that came from the other committees. So there was a handful of faces and names from Budget and Finance, from Chartered Clubs, Sports Pavilion. So it really made for a really great conversational dynamic for this year's establishment of the capital project. Russ Boston and I, along with the collaboration of all the requests or repair and replacement items that come up from our reserve study tool every year, we did our yearly review before the committee season started. So I will say that based on what you're going to hear from us today, a lot of the items that came up due in 4/25/26 had significant review. An example would be like the carpet in this room. You know, after doing a walkthrough, we determined that an asset like this doesn't need replacing in FY 25/26. And we had various items like that, sports pavilion carpet, library carpet for this particular budget season. So a lot of items are deferred. So right now, it's my privilege to be able to read off the line items that's going to be proposed again to the general manager. Starting off with new, we have the Palm Ridge interior pool area painting. This project is going to involve a significant amount of vendor assistance, not only by hiring a professional painter. It's above the scope of what we can handle here in facilities, and probably a significant build of a scaffolding system to be able to get to those tall pool areas. Moving on, at Beardsley, the Clay Club and Glass Enameling Clubs have provided CR13s for club expansion. So we are proposing to the general manager to have planning and document funds placed in this upcoming budget so that that discussion can move on after the committees give their recommendations and have the opportunity to develop this project for a 2-year project plan. Beardsley mini golf shade cantilevers. Recently, through a major cleanup of the Beardsley campus and the mini golf area, a lot of trees were removed. A lot of folks have expressed that, you know, they enjoyed their shade there. The trees were in really poor condition. Patty's team did an amazing job cleaning it up, and now they're going into their phase 2 of kind of renovating it with landscape stone and some plants. And we recognize after doing the properties tour to potentially put some shade cantilevers out there. So that's included in this proposed budget. And then at the library, displays and loft walls, an opportunity prior to any strategic planning or master planning that may happen over the next year or so. The library is in need of developing some spaces so that they can have their programming done much better than it currently is going on today. And that'll include some displays and loft walls to create room separation in the big library areas. That concludes the new capital item list. Moving on to R&R. Over at the Sports Pavilion, we have a handful of improvements to the bowling lane centers. We're proposing the new pin setters to be installed in FY 25/26. The bowling center needs 2 new oiling machines. Along with the improvements to the pin setters, we have gutter system replacement, division capping, the caps that go between the lanes. The masking graphic units and graphics on the back wall are in need of replacement. The subway ball track that goes underneath those division capping areas and returns the balls. And the automatic bumper system, including foul lights where the bowler's approach area is. Moving back over to the library, some tables, chairs, and shelving. Currently, the library operates off of old tables and chairs that are circular, and it's very hard to create a programming environment for the librarian's needs. They're interested in buying new tables and chairs that are rectangular in shape so that they can create large sections of continuous space and table use. R.H. Johnson Lawn Bowling, Todd Patty and his crew are going to propose to do regrassing of 2 of the courts. R.H. Johnson's tennis screens are needing replacement. We have an HVAC systems throughout the rec centers. R.H. Johnson has one. Kuntz is up for its 5-year cardio equipment replacement. The softball electronic scoreboard, a real positive note on this is the club asked if a sponsor could be provided to pay for this scoreboard. That discussion has happened between the club, the general manager, and the CFO, and they are diligently working towards that. It has been approved for a sponsor to take care of this if it is fully funded. This may come off of this FY 25-26 list and become a sponsoring Liberty Buick purchase for the softball this year. To be determined, some of the discussion points were design, the wording, and all things are moving positively forward at this point. Over to Beardsley, we have some more HVAC units that need replacement. Pool area and patio furniture, another line item from our walks through the properties tours to get a newer and more uniform patio furniture, both inside and outside. Pool circulation pumps, Palm Ridge walk-behind scrubber for our decks, a spa heater. Moving on to IT, we have 2 servers. One server is our SQL for our SQL mirroring witness, which determines which one of the 2 SQL servers are in mirroring array and is the primary and which is the mirror. And then the other server is the admin server platform for the AVG Business Centralized Security Management, server client connection monitoring, and various network management monitoring and testing tools. And then finally, in the R&R is a concrete saw, walk-behind saw, 20 horsepower that the facilities maintenance team uses regularly, and ours has met its useful life. That concludes the R&R for the proposed 25-26 list. And up next is Todd Patty to share on the proposed R&R for golf.
Thank you, and good morning. Just a few items on our FY 25-26 capital budget for golf course maintenance. We have our normal vehicle replacement and equipment replacement program for this year, and it's the standard equipment. Thanks, Carl. So we have some Workman's, the light and heavy duty vehicles, golf maintenance equipment. We have 22 pieces of equipment. And we have reviewed all that, and there are some units that we've actually moved out into next year or the year after that. That's just a normal practice that we do with our equipment. We evaluate each piece. If it's up for replacement in the reserve study, if we feel that we can get another year or 2 out of it, we move that out. We have Lakeshore Hardscape on 14 and 18 at Desert Trails, scheduled for 25-26, and then some of those are rust. Oh, pump station, which will be part of the Stardust irrigation and turf reduction project. We also have a shoreline hardscape on number 18 at Deer Valley that we'd like to do. That might be a combination of a split face block wall and riprap on that application. Some of these other units fall into golf operations, player assistance carts, and janitor carts, and those kind of things. So I believe that was it on those two pages.
We also have a Trail Ridge patio resurface and Deer Valley Pro Shop tile roof replacement. And Desert Trails Pro Shop tile replacement. If Todd didn't mention those items, that would be managed by myself. Folks, this is, again, part of the program that we developed to make this budgeting process a little easier. Pricing costs for these projects will be provided to the general manager December 1st per our policies, and then we will begin our normal rotation of we've done in the past, where all committees will be able to review this list and have discussions with pricing included. I can say that this is a significantly reduced budget from last year's, and we're looking forward to the December, January, and February discussions on the capital budget before the operating budget comes out. I'm here for any questions, and appreciate being here today.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions from the board? None. Any questions from the audience? Yes, please step to the microphone, sign in with your name and rec card number. Please print legibly. And then when you speak, announce your name and your rec card number.
Bill Weaver, 124087. Regarding the cantilevers at Beardsley for the shade, this will be the third or fourth year I've suggested cantilevers for the driving ranges, which would generate some more revenue. They're virtually unusable during the summer. We should be considering some of those. And one other comment, I'm not sure, you must be aware of the new billboards that are visible on the north side. They're the billboards on 303. They're visible to probably a couple dozen houses. If we put up probably a dozen or so trees along the Javelina Trail, you could probably shield those from the community and maybe that would be an act of kindness from the board to those people. Also, just to mention along with this, there have been at least, I think, 24 trees that have been taken out over the Cantilever Trail over the last 2 years, and they have not yet been replaced. I'm sure they're on somebody's list to have that done, but the shade is important on the trail, especially during the summer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those suggestions. Any other questions or comments from the audience?
Good morning, Bruce Lees, 135422. Mr. President and Board, good morning. Carl, good morning. Question regarding Echo Mesa update. My understanding that Echo Mesa is on track for this forthcoming year to have the turf replacement occur. And my question was, in accordance with how the money was spent for Grandview, we took some money out of reserve fund to pay for that. Is that the expectation also to help make this project go to completion?
Mr. President. Yes, so all of our capital projects, every project on the capital improvement list is paid with reserve funds, so per policy. So any capital project, including the irrigation project, is paid with our reserve funds.
Okay, maybe I was not seeing it. That's not part of the presentation on the new capital.
Okay, yeah. So that is a capital project for 24-25. It's not going to start until April of this fiscal year, but that is in this year's capital budget. These are items for 25-26
Okay,
being
great.
considered in the budget process.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any questions online?
Nothing online.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carl.
Have a good day, everyone.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 4.03 with some comments from Chartered Clubs Committee Chairman, Director Chatton.
Yes, as part of the annual review of Recreation Center policies, the Chartered Club keeps going on. The Chartered Clubs Committee is required to review and recommend changes to the RR&Ps to the governing board. This year, the committee formed a working group to undertake this task and report back to the committee. The working group has 5 members: Vicki Erla, Pat Kramer, David Bennett, Connie Kampf, and Nick Turner. Dory Miller was a member but was unable to continue for personal reasons. They have met 4 times and will continue to meet weekly until the end of the year. As you know, this is a large document. So far, they have worked their way through approximately half of the content, sent an email to all club presidents asking for input, and invited key members of staff to join them to get their views. They expect to have a red line version ready for our January meeting. This will be introduced to the committee and residents. Feedback and discussion will be at the February meeting to give time for all interested parties to review the changes. They also expect some iteration as feedback is taken into consideration, and expect that a recommendation from the committee can be made to the governing board at our April meeting. That's it.
Okay, any questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Any online questions?
Nothing online.
Okay, we will move to agenda item 4.04, the tennis accommodation request. Director Chatton?
Yes. The tennis club made their West Valley League accommodation request at our November 5th Chartered Clubs Committee meeting. Larry Plaster, club president, made the presentation. After hearing their presentation, it was determined that at least 2 sections of the RR&Ps that they would be in violation of were identified, but no solution was offered. Those were 3.3.1, which is compete with individuals or teams of identifiable members of another age-restricted community, and 3.3.7 are required to secure a signed reciprocal agreement. Several of the 10 teams in the league are not age-restricted. The RR&P working group may address that issue. It was also felt that not enough effort was made to secure reciprocal agreements. It was suggested to Mr. Plaster that the club redouble their effort to secure those agreements and contact the Chartered Clubs Committee when they have been secured for possibly another hearing on their accommodation request. No other action was taken on their request.
Any questions for Director Chatton from the board? Any questions from the audience?
I have a comment.
Oh, sorry, Director Piaskowski.
Okay, I have a comment. I attended the Charter Club meeting on this Tuesday. I was kind of disappointed that our rec manager, Casey Huda, didn't step up to let everyone know, the new Charter Club members and the audience know, that for the last 4 to 5 years, the tennis club has tried to get these reciprocal agreements signed. Along with the tennis club presidents, Casey, and our last GM president, GM Bill Schwinn, all tried to get these other communities to sign this. Now we're going to ask them one more time to go back to these other communities to get this signed. Is this not insanity? We keep asking the other communities to sign an agreement that they've already told us that they're not going to sign. So we keep asking the question and we keep getting the same results. Jack, you have told me that this board is a policy-making board. So basically, it's a what board, and the management is the how. So the RR&Ps are the what, because the governing board approved them, am I correct? And now we need the how. So I really believe that for the tennis club to go back and ask these communities to get this reciprocal play agreement signed, that it should not fall back on the tennis, it should fall back on management. I have just one more thing. The behavior of our governing board president at that meeting was appalling. Our governing board president, Jack Leary, attacked the tennis board president, Larry Plaster. We have a Be Kind campaign going on right now. In my opinion, the aim and intent of the statement that was read before each governing board meeting and committee meetings was not followed. I truly believe that our governing board president owes the tennis board president an apology for how he attacked him. That's it.
Director Rhodes.
Mr. President, I think that this is a policy board, and we can't have directors who are to remain neutral and observe all of the both sides of an issue to verbalize and make a grandstand of an event. I think that Director Paskowski must recuse herself from this discussion. It's clear that she's biased. She's not maintaining neutrality, and she's not doing this in the interest of the governing board and in the interest of the people of Sun City West.
Thank you. Any other comments? I will address, not at length, the comments from Director Piaskowski. Director Piaskowski has missed the point of asking for the reciprocal agreements. There is a feature in the RR&Ps for an accommodation. And the goal of asking the tennis club to ask for the reciprocal agreements may or may not succeed. But if it does not succeed, there is a way to provide evidence that the attempt was made and that the attempt was unsuccessful. That's part of the evidence of building an accommodation request. So that the governing board can then take it upon themselves to decide if the accommodation is to be granted within the realm of the RR&Ps, but with a, still working within the range of the RR&Ps as opposed to an exception, which is completely outside. So the point is that there is an option for this to happen. An accommodation is a temporary set aside, if you will, of the policy, and with a beginning and an end, unlike an exception, which is a permanent thing. The other thing I will point out is that the tennis club has refused to follow the RR&Ps, whether they're in the new format that was approved last year by this governing board or by any other governing board. They have been out of compliance for the last 30 years. They are the only club that continues to follow the rules in this regard. So it is incumbent upon them to follow the same rules that the other 90 clubs follow. I will not apologize for the comments I made to President Plaster. They have continued to throw the rules back in our face for the last, at least in my tenure, last 3 years, and they refuse to continue to abide by the rules. This has to stop. Every other club complies and works within the rules that we have. The tennis club has refused to do so. And like I said, it has to stop. Any other comments from the board? Yes, Director Hurley.
This is a question more than a comment. Is Director Paskowski a member of the tennis club?
I believe she is. Any other questions from the board? Questions from the audience? I see one at the lectern.
Good morning, Mr. President. I just have a couple of comments. Oh, I'm sorry. Lynn Kellis, 129120. I think the first comment I want to make is I'm really proud of people who join the board or whatever it is, to help guide their cause. But I also believe very strongly that someone who is champion a particular item does need to recuse themselves. They shouldn't be, I don't believe we should be speaking as a governing board officer in the same manner that you would as a observer. And, I know that there were people who spoke at the charter committee, and that was fine. They spoke as part of the community, but not from the seat that's up here in front of us. Along with that, I think that we talked earlier, like a week or so ago, about doing some healing between the rec center and the governing board and our community. And I think that's really an important piece right now. Instead of our team against your team, it just stirs up more hatred amongst our community. And we have another vote coming up soon, and you can already feel the rumbling starting. So I'm asking, through you, Mr. President, of the governing board, if you'll please be conscientious about what you're doing from the positions you're sitting in. And that is to include your behavior, even away from this desk, carrying the title of being a governing board director, is also scrutinized by our community. And making snarky comments to people and snarky comments between each other, whether it's at the desk or it's in the audience, is really uncalled for. And I just ask that you stand up to the positions that you have taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Any comments online?
No comments online, but I did skip a couple from going back to looking at the capital expenditures. There are a couple of questions online, if we can go back to that.
I think we can do that, yes, since there was a time delay.
Okay. First, both questions are from Gary Bach, 135435. And he says, why are we asking for mini golf shades when there were shade trees there that were removed?
Mr. President?
Go ahead.
A collaboration between Environmental Services led by Todd Patty and myself and my team at Beardsley. The hours that we put in each and every day to clean up 4 mini golf clubs, mini golf users, the park in general in that area is just a crazy amount of time and effort based on the condition that those trees were in. So it didn't matter what season. It was definitely more impacted over the last 2 years due to the heat and the trees. Some fair conditions, some dead. And the best decision that we made from an operational point was to clean up the park and save the labor and all of the time that the club loses from waiting for us to come at a midday point to do a cleanup when that's not part of our normal routine. We go out in the morning, we do a cleanup, and then all of a sudden mid-afternoon we're scrambling for staff members to come and blow or use some equipment on those courts. It significantly has helped. It has turned it around 100%, in fact. And now we're just simply asking for an improvement to that park based on walking it with the Properties Committee, comments from our members. Yes, they would love to have live trees, but that is certainly under consideration because of how we review these projects by our committees. So I leave that at the committee's discussion point, and our proposal is to put approximately 6 shaded cantilever covers.
There's also a second question from Gary Bach, 135435. On the workman carts, how old are the vehicles being replaced? I don't know, is that a Todd Patty question, or does anybody know?
I think Todd Patty had to go on to other duties. We'll
Yeah,
get back.
Todd has left the room. So, but
So I'll speak for Todd the best I can, Mr. President. So we do an assessment of all of the carts, and I believe the average life of these carts is about 10 years old. So we depreciate them over 5 years, I believe, on the books. But they get to a point where they're so old that they discontinue parts and things like that, as well as just the time and energy it takes to maintain them. So, but we do assess them, and we take that into consideration. And as he said earlier, we assess every piece and move it down the line if we can get more useful life out of it and it makes sense operationally. So, but more of those details will come out in the presentations that will be given. And that will be given at golf and budget and finance, both of those presentations and governing board. Well, so he will have details on that.
Thank you, Cliff. Any other questions online?
Nothing else.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Thank you. Okay, let's go to agenda item 4.05, the Photography Club Space Utilization Presentation Review. Director Chatton?
If I may, President Leary, I would combine 4.05 and 4.06. The Photography Club and the Computers West Club both made space utilization presentations. This was in response to discussions of possibly expanding the clay and glass fusion club areas. Both presentations were well done and showcased club accomplishments. The Chartered Club's Committee special meeting on November 18th will consider possible changes to photography, computer, clay, and glass fusion spaces. So we really have nothing else to say until we have our special meeting on the 18th.
Okay, any questions for Director Chatton? From the board, any questions from the audience? Oh, yes, Director Rhodes.
Yeah, this is really more editorial, and it's directed towards Director Chatton and his committee. All I can say to you is good luck. I mean, I'm not being flip about this, because all of the clubs that are involved in this, and I believe there's 4 clubs that are involved in it, I think this is going to be an answer where nobody is happy. I mean, I don't know that, but I know that you'll do your diligence on this, and I would certainly be very interested in seeing what your recommendations are. So only the best of thorough investigation and insight to that.
It's been interesting as really this whole idea of what a potential move would be, as far as I knew, was rumors and propaganda. There's never been anything official at a meeting that says this is what we are going to do. So it'll be an interesting committee meeting on the 18th. In my opinion, there may be other solutions or non-solutions presented, and I'm really hoping that we have a very good discussion.
Director Horvath.
I'd just like to second what Director Rhodes said. Yeah. Good luck.
Okay, everybody views this as a big uphill discussion, I see. Okay, any other comments? Yes, Director Williams.
I'm going to be on the optimistic side.
We're all optimistic.
No, you're not. You've already made your decision. It's going to be a wild event. But I do think that there are a lot of alternative ideas that haven't been thought about yet. And, we have 91 clubs. Nothing stays static. Clubs change and so on. But I think that there are solutions that we can work out. We've done it before. We haven't had to go out and buy a new building or put a $6 million building in the parking lot between here and the library, like was suggested about 6 years ago. So I'm going to stay on the positive side, and I think we can come up with a solution. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the audience?
Bill Weaver, 124087. I just want to add a little more controversy. I was part of the photography club for a while to do some digitizing of some pictures and things, and I can't understand why the 2 clubs have not combined. It's probably very territorial, but the computer club and the photography club could both support each other. They would probably need a much larger space for one large high-tech media club, but I think something like that would increase their membership as one large group and serve both of them if they don't have territorial feelings. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions from the audience? Any online questions?
Yes, we have a question from Gary Bach, 135435. Will the special meeting for club expansion be open to members? That special meeting will be held in this room on the 18th. I believe it's at 1:30. And yes, it is open to the public.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to agenda item. You did 4.05 and 06, combine those. We will go to the updates on the properties and golf tours. I'll have Director Williams go first and then Director Grom.
Thank you, Mr. President. Properties Committee has concluded their annual inspection of all 4 recreation centers and the metal shop. Each week, a detailed report of our findings was sent to Russ Boston and Carl Wilhelm and each member, of course, of our committee. At each location, we identified areas needing painting, deep cleaning, safety issues, caulking, routine building maintenance, and photographs of particular areas were also sent to both Russ and Carl. Here are the future capital projects that the committee recommends. Upgrade the elevator at Palm Ridge to a modern electric reversal device. Install sunshades, as Carl has already mentioned, at the Beardsley Miniature Golf. Install emergency lights in all bathrooms. One of the things that we discovered through this inspection was there are none in any of them. And install several TV monitors in this lecture hall to make visibility of the items being presented more visible and accessible to the directors on the board, who always have to turn around to look and see what's behind us, and also to increase the volume that is available to those sitting near the back. So overall, our facilities are being very well taken care of, are in great shape. Kudos to our staff for being so on top of things. A special thanks to Carl and Russ, because by doing this report to them every week, they get right on any of those items that we've detected that are current safety issues or whatever, and they have done an excellent job of staying on top of all that. So our appreciation to them for another year of getting up, being there at 6:30 in the morning on 5 consecutive Tuesdays to go with us in all of these tours. And a special thanks to my hardworking committee. It's a committee of almost all new members due to our new rule of you can't be on more than 3 years. So I had one returning, and it has been an education for them, and I commend our president for suggesting that the committee members for the other standing committees might like to join us. That first week, I had 7 of the new directors from Budget and Finance Committee that went through that walkthrough with us. They have continued to be there. Not always 7, but at least 4 or 5 each week. Their comments were simply this: this is going to be such a help to us as a Budget and Finance Committee to have physically seen the sites and what you're talking about and what you're proposing this year for the upcoming budget. They were very appreciative. One of the guys said he'd learned more from me in an hour and a half than he'd learned in 5 years he'd lived here. But it was great to have them join us, and I thought it was a very good idea, because that hadn't been in the past. And again, with almost all new members on the Budget and Finance Committee, they're in a learning curve as well. So that concludes our report. And now our 2 major projects for this year are done, and it's only November. Thank you.
All right, good job, Director Williams. That's great. I'm glad all that has worked out. Well done. Director Grom?
Thank you, President Larry. The Golf Committee initially scheduled 4 tours in order to tour all 7 of our golf courses. On Tuesday, October 8th, we completed tours of Pebblebrook and Stardust. On Wednesday, October 16th, we completed Deer Valley and Desert Trails. We have now added a 5th tour, which is the Golf Lab, which is at Grandview. That will be held this coming Wednesday at 12:30. Everyone is welcome to join us in case you've never seen the Golf Lab. It's quite a unique place. Our tour after that will be Echo Mesa on Thursday, the 14th. That's Thursday of this coming week. And the unique thing about that is that will be the course that has the turf removal and irrigation done next spring. And most of that is already marked out. So if anyone would like to go around and see what the course looks like now and see the areas where the turf will be removed, this would be a great time to do that. And our last tour will be the following Monday, November 18th at 2 p.m. We'll tour both Grandview and Trail Ridge golf courses. And that completes it.
Okay, thank you, Director Grom. Any questions from the board for Directors Williams and Grom? Yes, Director Rhodes.
Actually, I do, and I want to congratulate Director Williams. Her comments regarding the number of people that are going on the tours. I can tell you from firsthand experience as chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee that the not going on the tours, which we didn't understand the gravity of it at that time, in which it's very crystal clear now that it was necessary. I'm sure, I have no doubt that that was a huge improvement, at least from the committee members on BNF and just as a director on the governing board. So I congratulate you for encouraging that collaboration in the tours.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Questions or
President
comments?
Larry?
Oh, yes, thank you.
President Larry, I have a
Yeah,
question.
I was just going to ask you if you were still there.
Of course. I'm here all along. I just want to amplify or, second, third, whatever it is, and thank both Director Williams and Director Grom for including other committee members and specifically Budget and Finance. As Director Williams said, the members of the committee have been extremely both impressed and educated by walking along with the committee on these tours. And, personally speaking, I too have learned more from Director Williams in my year and a half on the board than I have from others as well. A wealth of information and knowledge about our community, but the committee really extends their thanks. I think I've said it in a couple of other sessions, but just to sort of amplify and make it clear, the Budget and Finance Committee thanks both the Golf Committee and especially the Properties Committee for being so welcoming, answering our questions. It will make for a much smoother and more productive, more importantly, more productive discussion process as we head into budget season. So thank you again.
Thank you, Director Novello. Any comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, any comments, questions from the audience? Any questions, comments online?
Nothing online.
Okay, we will then move on to the next agenda item. That is agenda item 4.08, the Golf Committee Policy Review, Policy G06 from Director Grom.
Thank you, President Leary. The Golf Committee met yesterday afternoon, and we had a very engaging meeting. Our last policy that we need the complete review of is Policy G06. The item which has a rich history here is the golf groups. And at present, there's a simple statement of just 2 sentences that talks about the golf groups. But part of this is we have established a working group that will look at converting that sentence basically into a policy type sentence so that it has meaning within the policy, but the program is actually run by golf operations. And the other issue is the working group will also look at potentially adding in a policy statement on how our golf men's and women's leagues are run, since all those are clubs and they are scheduled outside of the normal tee time system. So the date of the first meeting has not been established yet, but we have a 4-member committee, working group rather, that will determine their first meeting. It will be posted on board docs and it will be open to the public. And hopefully, if things go well, they'll have the report done for our meeting next month in December so that we can revise that policy and that'll be clearer to everyone as to how the golf groups operate and even how the leagues operate, because even there we had some discussion yesterday. So I think that should help everyone. There's no intention to do away with golf groups, as they are a very rich part of the history of this place, and it really does promote golf because the golf groups generally play somewhere upwards of 1,500 rounds a week during prime season. So those are our routine golfers, and that's what we're all about, keeping the residents of the community happy with the way the golf courses are run.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Director Grom from the board? Okay, any questions from the audience? Any questions online?
Nothing online.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Director Grom. We will then move on to 4.09, which again is Director Grom, the update on the Sun City West Golf Course dress code.
Thank you, President Leary. Presently, we have a dress code, and a copy of it is available at every golf course in the pro shop. The item that was discussed here is, yesterday, Mr. Pat O'Hara presented the current dress code along with a few recommendations. And as part of the presentation, he was given a number of inputs from various committee members. So he now has a few things to consider, and any members of the committee that have additional things to input to him will email him during the next few weeks. And hopefully for our next meeting, he will come back to the committee with a revised dress code. And let me just make it very clear, there is no policy, no board policy on the dress code. So this will simply be a program that is administered and run by golf operations. And part of our discussion yesterday was, well, how do we enforce this? So we're also looking at having an actual picture board at each pro shop that would show the type of golf attire that's appropriate and non-appropriate, as there's actual verbiage that deals with appropriate golf attire as put out by the United States Golf Association. So hopefully we can clarify this because, you know, fashion trends do change, and compared to where our current dress code is, we definitely have people wearing other type of clothing that actually is appropriate for golf and some type that isn't. So our goal here is that at the next meeting, Mr. O'Hara will have a revised dress code policy. It'll be reviewed by the committee, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Grom. Any questions for Director Grom from the board? Seeing none, any directions, any comments from the audience? Any comments online?
Nothing online.
Okay, then we will move forward to the agenda item 4.10, the Sports Pavilion and Bowling Committee Policy Reviews for the Sports Pavilion and Bowling Policy B01 and B02 Resident Cardholder Guest Bowling. Director Rhodes, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. President, what I'd like to do is to do 4.1 and 4.10 and 4.11, and I'll just run right into the next one.
That is fine.
Okay, so.
Is that acceptable to the board? Yeah, okay.
So I've had the honor and the privilege to serve as the chairman of the Sports Pavilion and Bowling Committee. And I think it's fair to say, considering we have a lounge, we have a bowling alley, we have a pool hall, and we have a dartboard, that's really the happy place. And so we're, for all practical purposes, we have great success in the operation of all of those activities. The first, I think the elephant in the room for the bowling alley is the food directive. How do we handle the food? And as you all know, we do have a food vendor. And I can assure you, in no uncertain terms, he understands the expectations of his contract and the expectations of his hours of operation. So, but he is a business. So he makes certain decisions that we can't control. The other issue that seemed to be kind of a niggling issue is the issue of bringing food into the bowling alley. So what I can tell you is what we don't want. We don't want to have people bringing in buffets. You know, we don't want people bringing in food for their bowling team. We don't want that. What we do want is we do want to permit you, to permit our bowlers and our homeowners to celebrate birthdays, to have a cookie exchange, you know, to have the incidental foodstuffs that people like to bring in. So an operational directive, and I don't want to say policy, because this is not a policy issue. And a policy issue is something that the governing board issues. This is an operational directive. And so, and I had the opportunity to sit in and review that as it was developed. And I think that it's a very viable working solution where basically what we've said is that birthday cakes are fine, cookies are fine, just let us know in advance. You know, we just don't want this whole mass buffet set up, you know. So I think that's working. It's been in existence for 2 or 3 weeks now, and I think it's working very well. I believe what they do is they go to the monitor and tell the monitor, tomorrow is Katie's birthday, so let's bring a cake, and we're going to bring a cake in. So, and that part of it, I think, has been working very well. The bowling leagues, we just started our 30th bowling league with 2,500 bowlers, 2,500 resident bowlers that are here. And we have non-bowlers around 500. So we got about 3,000 bowlers that are bowling now. I do go into the pool hall with my friend every week and have the opportunity to enjoy the environment in there. I did kind of I've been doing for the past month or so, I've been just kind of looking around and talking to people. And one of the things that I discovered is that is a very, very busy place. At any given time, there are 12 to 18 tables in use. And it's a mixed group. I mean, there's ladies groups there, there's men's groups, it's just, and the one common denominator is everybody is having a big time. You know, there's a lot of, boy, you missed that one, that was a dumb shot, but you know, I mean, that's kind of the way that it goes. One of the things that I think is pretty ingenious, and I have to look to Gary Zarek because I think this was his idea, they're having a special around holiday time, they're having special tournaments. And one of them is Gary's Turkey Shoot. I don't know where he got the name, but Gary's Turkey Shoot. And I think that's in mid-November sometime, day before Thanksgiving. Okay, so and you have to be a league bowler, I believe, to bowl in that. And then the other one that if I bowled, I'm sure I would fall far under this, and it's called Club 199. So you have to have an average of 199 or below to be able to play in this. So, but I just think these are very creative activities that are happening. So all in all, that's kind of the status of our happy place. We do have issues that we're dealing with, but I think we have them under control. One of the things that's on the agenda, I'm going to go to a more serious side now, is the review of our policies, and we have 5 policies in the sports pavilion. We assigned them to committee members, and with the schedule of when the review would be done. The review was completed on policy B01 and B02. It was reviewed by committee member Falcone, he's right out in the audience here. And the other one that was in B01, that was on sports pavilion and bowling. And the other one was on resident card holder and guest bowling, was reviewed by committee member Bob Edge and Terry Fulkerson. The reviews indicated that they saw no reason for change. They were well written. They were still meaningful, and so the committee forwards these to the governing board with a recommendation of no change of either one of those. Just as an editorial comment, Policies 3, 4, and 5 are scheduled for review in the December meeting. So, and that's really all I have. Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to chair that committee.
Thank you, Director Rhodes. Any questions or comments from the board for Director Rhodes? Seeing none, any questions or comments from the audience?
Bill Weaver, 124087. Does the bowling alley have a dress code? Or is it more casual and less formal than golf and USGA versus PBA? Or is there any controversy there regarding dress code?
Director Rhodes, you want to take that?
Gary Zurich, I think, is jumping up to come down here. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm going to go ahead and ask Gary to comment on that.
Yes, sir. We do have a dress code in the bowling center, and I could perhaps get a copy of that to Director Grom, and he can see what we allow in our center and what we don't. Some people come in the heat of the day with skinny straps and shirts, and we provide them with a bowling shirt to wear while they're in the bowling center, so that we have we have pictures, and they are posted at the doors, they are posted on some of the tables, and they are definitely posted at the counter. If we see something that's inappropriate, we will give them a rental shirt or a spare shirt to wear and then return to us when they're done.
But they've got the shoes. You got to have the shoes for bowling.
We have actually bought the shoes, and they have flames on them, and they've become very popular. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Any questions online?
Nothing
online.
online.
Hold on, Mr. Lease is coming up.
Good morning again, Mr. President. Bruce Lees, 135422. Going back to the food issue at Sports Pavilion. Is there current policy that prohibits a card holder playing or bowling in the bowling center from bringing a Subway sandwich into the bowling center to eat during bowling?
Director Rhodes?
I don't know how, and I'm going to look to Gary Zurich here, because Gary is the kind of the authoritative source on making the determination. I don't know that we have actually come out and started to itemize, you can have this, this, or this, but you can't have that. The operational directive talks about the occasional birthday cake, cookies, that type of thing, and to know in advance that you're going to be bringing that in. So the answer is going to be yes and no. You know, the answer will be no. If you're just coming in and you want to bring food in, a meal in to eat, then we're going to say that that's not permitted. If you want to bring in a birthday cake because it's one of your team members' birthday, tell us in advance and you can bring it in. That's
kind of hypocritical, isn't it?
Well,
You make an accommodation for one group, but not for an individual?
It's not a group, Bruce. It's a matter of it's a matter of you can't just show up and say that I'm going to bring my sandwich in here. Now, I can tell you what would happen on a real life basis. My guess is Gary would look at that and say, Bruce, we don't really want you to bring your sandwich in. You can finish it, but please don't do it again.
Okay, I'm somewhat at a loss, sir. The contractor that is under contract and provides food services has a restaurant that he leases from us, the community, the rec centers, who also sells food to the participating players at the sports pavilion during bowling hours and will actually table deliver the food to you. So is there something specific benefiting the contractor to have exclusivity in the providing of food resources during play at the sports pavilion, whether it be in the billiard hall, I know Lizard Acres doesn't doesn't allow outside food and drink, but there isn't anything that I saw that would prohibit it in the sports pavilion, specifically the bowling alley facility. So I'm looking for some kind of clarification, or is the intent of the policy to be created to prohibit rec card members attending a sanctioned league event from bringing a snack in with them during a bowling activity? Or must they have to procure any food from the authorized vendor on the premises?
Well, clearly, I mean, I think it's very obvious that we have a food vendor, and our intent is to help promote the food that he's providing. Contractually, and I haven't seen the contract, but contractually, I'm certain there's a provision in there that we will try to help support his business. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be an exclusive thing. Gary, I'm going to ask you to kind of intervene here, because we actually had this discussion is, where do we draw the line? Because your question is, where do we draw the line of what can they bring in and what can they not bring in? What we can't do is to get to a point to say, okay, Subway sandwiches are not good, McDonald's is not good, Dairy Queen, yes. You know, I mean, we can't do that. We have to live in a world where we have to be practical and logical about it. The intent is not to bring in food into the bowling alley. You know, we'll let you bring in birthday cakes, we'll let you, for special occasions, we'll let you bring in cookie exchange at Christmas or whatever it is, you know, but to start bringing in food, no. Where does it go from a Subway sandwich? Now let's go to takeout from a restaurant. Is that okay? I mean, where do we draw the line? And we draw the line as we're not going to permit food from outside coming into the bowling alley, period. We will permit birthday cakes, cookies, but we know in advance. So I think we're splitting hairs here to a bit, but we have to somehow draw the line somewhere. And that line is no food from the outside.
Thank you. I would encourage or request that this be subject to more conversation and possibly debate. And I would like to know if someone could, in fact, provide the language that allows the vendor to have exclusive right over the food in the sports pavilion outside of the restaurant. Points of concern and points for discussion. Thank you very much.
I would like to add a comment. I have not been involved with these discussions. I have not seen the contract, but what I am hearing is that there's food and then there's food. That there's the food that is a meal that is also provided, that is provided by our vendor. And we have an obligation to him to support his business, to grow his business so that he can be successful and we can have a vendor in that space. What I'm hearing is that the other food are the things that are not available from that vendor, like cakes, trays of cookies, snack food, that kind of thing. And that's the distinction that I'm seeing. So that these other things that are allowed, like the cakes and the cookies, are not competing with what is available from Pete's Cafe. Subway is, anything that's a meal seems to be what is not available. So that's the way I look at it. I know, Gary, do you want to add comment to that?
President Leary, that is exactly correct. That is really what we're limiting. We just don't want the outside vendors' food in the center. We are trying to support our food vendor. Cookies and cakes are things that have been going on for 30 years in the bowling business. And people are asking me for exchanges, and we exchange our holiday candy, and we bring cookies in. Some of the ladies' leagues have been bowling there for 30 years. I am not going to stop those ladies from exchanging their cookies. That is totally, they will all be in my office, and that gets quite uncomfortable. So we try to let everyone enjoy what they're doing, and we're just trying to keep the outside vendor world out of the building and support our food vendor. And that's pretty much just it. And there are notices posted in the center about what is allowed and what's not. And we've tried to keep the notice at a very loose answer for the bowlers, to let them have a little latitude and enjoy their time and enjoy their birthdays and enjoy their holidays and do some of those things that they've been doing for years. Pizzas are not allowed. You can't bring them in. Hamburgers, things like that from the outside. We're not looking for that. We also have some people who are just coming from the north who don't know the directive. We're not going to grab their food off their plate and say, you can't have this. We just give them an informative answer and say, please, things have changed a bit, and you can continue on with this right now, but we would appreciate it if you don't bring this in anymore. Everyone's been very receptive, and we've had very little pushback.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Bennett, rec card number 137887. Just want to make sure that it doesn't get too restricted. Somebody with specific dietary problems or diabetics that might have to bring something to eat to keep them going, that's not restricted. And I have no idea how you would address that. I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. So.
That's actually a very good point, and we did address that. Okay. That was one of the primary issues that we looked at, and there is a provision, and I don't know about how it's written in the operational directive, but that we understand clearly and would never preclude that.
Okay, great discussion. Any more comments from the audience, the board, or online?
Nothing online.
Okay, then with that, we are at the end of our new business, and we're on to section 5. I'll go through, ask each board director for comments, and I'll start with Director Hurley. Oh, I'll start with Christine, thank you. Director Novello.
No further comment today. Thank you, President Leary.
Okay, thank you. Director Hurley.
Yes, thank you, President Leary. I have watched this meeting with great mirth today. And Jack, I personally want to extend to you my sympathies / encouragement to in facing all the challenges that you're going to have this year. And I, for one, am going to enjoy the spectacle.
I'm sure you are.
And I promise that I will try not to laugh out loud too many times. All right, thanks.
I will hold you to that. Okay, Director Graham.
Thank you, President Leary. I just want to add a comment as the golf committee chair. We've had 2 very engaging meetings over the last 2 months. And at the start of the year, we didn't have any clearly defined goals. But as we've gotten through these first 2 meetings, it's becoming very evident that one of the goals of the committee is going to be to find ways to promote Sun City West as a golfing community. Now, I don't know how we're going to do that. We have presentations by staff at each meeting. We're going to look at possibly changing the way they present their information to the committee and the residents as to cast a more positive light on the growth of golf within this community. Plus, there are things like there are open tee times, even during the high season when things really get booked. But we need to promote the fact that golf is available here, and it's available to our residents at a very good rate. And that's one of the things we're working on as we start to look into next year's budget. We want to keep golf reasonable, yet we need to support the annual budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Horvath.
Yes, just a statement. One unkind comment always elicits another. So let's all be kind.
Yeah, thank you. Director Chatton.
Nothing to add.
Director Piaskowski.
Nope, I'm good.
Director Williams.
I've said it all. Thank you.
Okay. Director Rhodes.
No comment, thank you.
I'll ask our general manager.
Thank you, President Larry. I do have a couple of things, or one thing primarily is with the holiday coming up on Monday of Veterans Day, we will be closed, but we are acknowledging our employees and thanking them for their service. And we thought it would also be appropriate to thank those of you on the board that have served our country. It's something that's near and dear to my heart that I appreciate very much the service that's been provided by anyone who served in any of our branches of service. So with that, I'd like to acknowledge Director Grom, who served in the Navy. Thank you, sir. Director Horvath, who also served in the Navy. Together, maybe? No?
He was up in the air. I was
Okay. Director Chatton, who was in the Air Force. Thank you, sir, for that. And Director Rhodes, who served in the Navy as well as the Marine Corps. So again, with that, we have a little acknowledging. I'm just going to pass these down for you all. A little thank you. It's a little pin as a token of our appreciation for your service to our country. And thank you very much for that. And I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you for your service. Okay, questions, comments from the audience? I see one approaching the lectern.
Lynn Kellis, 129120. I basically have a few questions. Are there guidelines for being a governing board director? And do we have anything in policy or anywhere that states if you have been disruptive on the board and been recalled or what have you, that you are no longer eligible to reapply for the board? It seems to me if we've had a lot of tumultuous behaviors, it would be a good thing for our community not to invite that back.
To answer your question, there are very few qualifications to be a board member. You have to be a member in good standing, and you have to be available year-round. So those are the only qualifications that are in policy. There are actually, I don't want to say there are none, but there are few disciplinary type actions that can be done. The part of it is that the board is elected by the members, and it's up to the members. The mechanism to do that is a recall. Unless I'm missing something. Am I missing something?
No. So I guess my request is that perhaps the board take a look at that issue, because it seems that we do really well for a while and things are going along quite well right now, and kudos to all of you. But Mr. President, I think that we need to pay attention to the ebb and flows that happen here, and if it's proven poor behavior, it should not be reinvited. I'm not saying you have to have a bunch of qualifications to be here, but if it's absolutely known that all you did before was create problems, and that is likely to come forward again, that perhaps we consider some kind of policy around that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that suggestion. We'll take that under consideration.
Bill Weaver, 124087. I have got two suggestions. One is, when I used to be in the past, if I watched a meeting online, that it was very easy to submit a question. Now, as best I can tell, you have to have a Google account and you have to log into the account. That needs to be changed. It should be as simple. You should not be required to have a Google account to do anything, no more than if I said everybody had to have a Macintosh to log in, and if you didn't have a Mac, you couldn't do it. That should not be a requirement. That should go back, revert back to the old way of just submitting a question if you have one. My other suggestion, I've requested this several times before, is that we have a workshop every year for all the residents to explain how the fully funded balance works, the APF works, how it's all created, how it's determined, how the APF is increased to support the fully funded balance and all that. And my biggest fear is that we continue to increase spending on new things and we increase the APF to cover it. I would like to see a chart for the last 10 years of how properties have increased and how the APF has increased to see if it's in line or if we're using the APF to fund new improvements. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I believe
President
your
Leary.
second one for the GM to consider. The first one regarding the YouTube account, that is beyond our control. That is a function of the YouTube Corporation, which is owned by Google. They require that. That's beyond our control. We cannot change that.
If I watch YouTube online, I can go on as a guest. I can always watch YouTube as a guest. I don't need a Google account. And in years past, there was a different method for submitting questions that did not go through Google. That was changed, and that was probably our software people that changed it from that to whatever we have now. You could revert back to a method of submitting questions, and then everyone, regardless.
Nothing was changed. Nothing was changed here.
President Leary, may I comment on the last?
Christine, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me any further now?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Just a quick update to the last resident who spoke. Just as a reminder, our finance team does a really informative mid-year budget update. So I'm unaware of what the current date is, but each of the things that were requested or suggested actually covered by our CFO and team at that point, all in one spot. So for him and for anybody listening, it's a great opportunity to learn a bit more, maybe not at the same level of detail that was just suggested, but how the fully funded balance works, all the 10-year projections, all of that is covered by our CFO and his team during those budget updates that will be happening. So please stay tuned for that and get it on your calendars. Or go back and watch it, listen to it afterwards. It's very informative.
Thank you, Director Novello.
My rec card is 127418. My name is Mary Ann Luton. You were saying that we want to promote this as a golfing community, but we're more than a golfing community. My husband golfs 350 days out of the year, probably. And you can look him up and find him. He's there everywhere. I mean, everyone knows him at the golf course because he's there all the time. But I don't golf. I'm here for other reasons. I'm here for the clubs. And I'm in 7 different clubs. And so I think we need to promote for golf and other clubs too, not just golfing community.
That's fair. We'll take that under advisement.
And also, I have one more thing.
Okay.
I overheard that there was not going to be Happy Camp this summer or this spring for kids. Why can't the clubs that want to do Happy Camp do it, and those that don't want to, don't have to do them? And let the clubs run them and organize them, come into the clubs and get the tickets from the clubs rather than getting them from the rec center, so the rec center is not really involved except advertising for us.
So the Happy Camp, there will be a form of a Happy Camp. It just may not be called Happy Camp. And we basically have, as was discussed at the GM Ops meeting, looked at what took place this last March, and it didn't work out so well. So staff is pivoting that into a different format. One of the biggest parts of that is trying to accommodate folks more because there is a lot of individuals where the dates didn't align with the kids' spring breaks. So by spreading out over a longer period of time, there will be opportunities for more people to attend. And so it isn't that we're doing away with Happy Camp, it's just we are tweaking it and turning it into a different format. And again, we're always looking for improvements on any programming we do. And sometimes it's different from what it was before, but it's just a matter of just tweaking it based on the results from the last time.
But are the children going to come to visit the different craft clubs and be able to do crafts with their grandparents?
Yeah, if, Casey, if you don't mind coming up and just kind of, you can speak a little more detail about it, if that's where we're gonna go.
Well, but we can plan things for the kids to do.
Thank you. Actually, John Chatton, when we discussed this at the Charter Club Committee meeting, he had a really good idea with the concept that we have standing, and I'm probably going to feed off of it, and that's basically kind of have a fair with the clubs, invite the clubs, hold them accountable to attend, and if they want to put together a schedule for that week and invite the kids, they can sign up for that throughout that week. So I thought that was a really good idea with the new concept that we brought. So that will invite the kids to the activities or the clubs during the week. But it's up to the clubs to participate. So
I think part of the point is it's evolving, is the thing. So the idea or the rumor that it's been canceled and it's not gonna happen is not true. It's just evolving, and Casey and her team are doing a great job to make that work best for everybody that's involved with it. So thank you, Casey.
Okay, any other questions from the audience? Anything online? John, any questions online?
Nothing online.
Nothing online. Okay, with that, our next workshop is December 13th, 9 a.m. in this room, and our next governing board regular meeting is happening November 21st, also at 9 a.m. in this room. December 13th. What did I say?
It says the next one is November. Yeah, the regular meeting 21st, but normally we would have it on the 14th.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Is there a reason that it's on the 21st?
Just probably scheduling thing, availability of the room.
Okay,
So again,
thank you.
next workshop, December 13th, 2024 in this room. The next regular meeting is November 21st, also in this room. It is 10:32. I will adjourn this meeting.